walking over 32,000 steps every single day has significantly transformed and moreover significantly upgraded my life in ways that I would have never imagined. So in this video, I'm going to break down all of the unexpected benefits of walking at such a high level, high volume daily walking. And no, walking is not just fat loss, or it's not just designed for you guys to lose fat. So let's dive into the first benefit that I immediately noticed from walking over 32,000 steps a day. And it has a lot to do with your life expectancy, both the quantity and the quality of your life. The reason for why I'm such a big advocate for high volume daily walking is not just because it allows me to stay lean year round and maintain a lean athletic physique. It's actually because I know for a fact from my own studies of medical literature. I might have also mentioned some of these studies before. Let me put on these specs because it is pretty sunny out here on this beautiful Friday morning. There was one study that was conducted, I believe it was in the UK. It was definitely outside of the US. It was this multiple year cohort study, and it followed a bunch of different participants over various decades of their lives. And it actually tracked their longevity, their morbidity and mortality. So basically, if they develop certain chronic diseases, and it divided them into two groups. One group of participants were mostly sedentary, i.e. they spend most of their days sitting down instead of doing a lot of walking, for example. So very light exercise to almost little exercise at all, less than 3,000 steps a day. And then there was another group which was highly active. This group was constantly walking around. They were basically the exact opposite of sedentary. So these folks were walking on average above 15,000, 16,000 steps a day. And they followed both groups of participants for a number of decades, right? Well past their late 30s, into their 50s, and then up until the 70s and 80s. And as you know, that's like the mean life expectancy of most folks around the world, men and women. It's usually mid 70s to now early 80s, depending on the country. There's some countries like Japan, for example, that have the highest life expectancy out of any other country in the world. So when they looked at these participants, especially after they passed into the later decades of their lives, they noticed that the participants that had the highest life expectancy, who actually completed the study and lived the longest, were the ones who were in that second group, the most active group. And on average, these participants walked over 16,000 steps a day. They also deduced that the participants that walked over 16,000 steps a day were on average, or they lived on average 11 years more than their sedentary counterparts, than the folks who are barely active, who spend most of their days sitting down. So this immediately demonstrated to me, and I had already crossed into the 20,000 step a day territory back in 2024 when I first read this study. More of a confirmation of the fact that I was onto something really important with stepping up my daily activity level, stepping up my daily walking. So when I talk about high volume daily walking, I'm referring to the ability to walk over 16,000 steps, because that's going to be the sweet spot. When you're walking over 16,000 steps a day, that's where you truly get that longevity benefit, i.e. you're adding on average about 11 years to your total life expectancy. And if you don't believe me, you can check out that study for yourself. I'm going to find that study. I'm going to find the link to that publication and link it in the description below. So that is the first benefit that you get from walking. And you're probably going to experience this not today, not tomorrow, not next week, not a couple of years from now, but maybe a decade from now, right? Long-term mindset. That's a long-term mindset that you should adopt as a high volume daily walker. And even before that, that additional 11 years that you add on to your life expectancy, you're also reversing your biological age, right? There's a such thing as your chronological age, which is defined by when you were born. And then there's your biological age, which is defined by how well you're taking care of your body, right? Not just your, vital signs, but also your blood work, your urine analysis, what you're eating on a daily basis, and of course, your activity level, which includes walking or doing cardio and resistance training, regular resistance training per week. And I've managed to decrease my biological age by quite a bit. So instead of my chronological age, which is late 30s, I'm actually according to my most recent test that I did with Function Health, 30 years old. So in my early 30s. And even then, I plan to repeat that test at the end of this year, because I'm allowed to do that test every 6 months to see how much more I've decreased my biological age, especially now that I'm averaging over 33,000 steps, which is going to be my next step goal for the month of August. So that's enough about the first unexpected benefit. Longevity benefits galore from walking 30,000 steps a day. Let's talk about the second benefit. And the second benefit has a lot to do with your posture, right? Once you become a high volume daily walker and you're consistently walking a shit ton of steps every single day on near autopilot, you suddenly are not like everyone else. Most people, unfortunately, suffer from the Hunchback of Notre Dame syndrome, or that Disney character, Quasimodo, right? They have a curve in their upper back and their neck, and they're constantly looking down because more than likely they're glued to their phones, right? Most people are addicts to their cell phones. So as a result, a lot of people nowadays suffer from poor posture. And it's not just a consequence of the fact that most people should definitely start going to the gym more regularly and doing exercises, upper body exercises, compound exercises like pull-ups, for example, which are awesome for your posture. But you can achieve the same results that you can get from those compound upper body exercises by simply walking over 20,000 steps a day. I immediately noticed a difference when I started walking over 20,000 steps a day 2 years ago, back in 2024. My shoulders were naturally able to adjust themselves backward. My chest was now puffed out, right? And my gaze was now fixed straight forward as I marched on, knocked out my steps day after day after day, and it just organically came about as my step goal became more consistent and as I became more and more locked in on continuously hitting 20,000 and then more importantly progressively overloading from 20,000 to 22,000 to 25,000, and now this year averaging just over 32,000 steps every single day in 2026. So you're gonna notice an immediate improvement in your posture just from high volume daily walking, and this by extension is going to massively boost your self-confidence. You're going to become more sure of yourself, more confident in yourself, because everything essentially flows from your body, right? Your mental state is essentially a reflection of how well you're treating your body. So if you have any types of inadequacies or any types of issues, physical issues, they're going to immediately reflect in your mental state, right? You're going to feel a little down on yourself, depressed, maybe anxious, right? When you have your shoulders hunched forward, your neck facing downward. But all of that goes away just by virtue of improving your posture. And that posture is automatically improved by just getting into the habit progressively overloading your daily step count. So that's the second benefit that I noticed from walking 32,000 steps a day. This is probably something that almost no one talks about in terms of an unexpected benefit from walking. Of course, everyone and their mom wants to talk about walking as a way of burning fat, right? But then it comes down to the major variable in fat loss, which is maintaining a calorie deficit long enough for you to strip off as much body fat as possible and essentially cut down to below 15%, which is basically where most men at least can start to see their abs. But this benefit has very little to do with fat loss or achieving a lean physique. It's actually the mental benefit that you get from daily walking, and that is walking is going to significantly increase your mental clarity, and it's also going to reduce your stress the more you walk every single day. Whenever you're walking, at least in the beginning, it's probably a novel experience, an uncomfortable experience to kind of listen to your own thoughts as you walk, right? There are people who are dealing with so many different types of trauma, so many different types of issues, internal, external to them. And all of that becomes, you start to hear those thoughts in your head as you're walking. So in the beginning, it's going to be uncomfortable, which is why, depending on who you are, I would recommend maybe investing in a pair of AirPods and just listening to some music while you're out and about. Listen to some music, create a playlist for yourself and YouTube Music or Spotify, or even get an audiobook. And you can actually you can actually access a whole variety of audiobooks within YouTube itself, right? You don't have to spring for the Audible app or anything like that, or purchase an audiobook. You can actually just go to YouTube, and YouTube has a variety of audiobooks for a whole lot of books in a variety of languages. I remember just a month ago, I listened to the entire Harry Potter book series on audio in Portuguese. So I listened to all 7 books in Portuguese just in the span of all the walks that I knocked out indoors, outdoors, on trails, and of course while walking my doggies outside. So that is something that I would recommend, and that would also significantly make it a lot easier for you, and it's going to make walking a more enjoyable activity for you to carry out once you kind of pair walking with either listening to music or listening to audio. But eventually you're going to have to not necessarily depend on listening to music or audiobooks as a crutch, because when you shed those AirPods, when you shed that music and you start to kind of really listen to your thoughts, you start to understand what you actually want to concentrate on in your free time, or even like in between work hours. Things become more clear to you. And that's certainly the case with me, for example. When I started walking, especially when I was overseas in Brazil, all the different times I've gone to Brazil, I was in Rio de Janeiro walking from one end of Copacabana beach to the next end. And there are a lot of things that just came to my mind at that time. This was my first time in a long time solo traveling, after spending a great deal of time basically shut up at home, right? Just solo dolo, living by myself. And when I was out there on Copacabana beach in Brazil, I began to realize what I actually wanted to do in life. And that was to strive towards financial independence and outcome independence, more importantly. So that realization would not have come to me had I not actively and intentionally sought out daily walking. And daily walking reveals to you that added mental clarity. And eventually, it de-stresses you as well. You just stop worrying so much, right? Some of that anxiety that you have built up maybe even some of those depressive thoughts that you have in your mind start to dissipate, start to disappear as you become an avid, high volume daily walker. So that is going to be another unexpected benefit that I especially realized after I got into this routine of walking every single day over 32,000 steps. I definitely feel significantly less stressed than ever before. And now it's just about living life to the fullest, one step at a time. The other benefit that I noticed from daily walking is that, as I mentioned, I spent a great deal of time, especially when I first started living by myself, basically locked up indoors. And this was in Florida, of all the places where you can actually go outside and enjoy, right, the natural beauty. And yet I was inside, basically living inside of my head, right, for most of those like initial months, living on my own. When I started to walk consistently over 22,000 steps every single day, traveling to Brazil, even driving between different cities in Florida, it actually encouraged me to go out on more trails and nature walks. It helped me connect more with nature, with the natural beauty around me, instead of just staying indoors all the time. Although I became a consistent walker by spending a majority of my walking routine indoors, it was only after I started to go out on those trails and go out on hikes, for example, even when I was overseas, like walking from like restaurant to restaurant, grocery store to grocery store, one end of the beach to the next end of the beach, it really connected me with nature. It actually gave me a ready-made excuse to go outside and touch grass, so to speak, right? And that's one of the reasons why I enjoy filming these videos outside. I could just be like every other content creator out there and just sit in front of my desk at home and just give you guys a standard talking head. But if I'm going to extol the benefits of daily walking, I might as well do it while I'm walking myself. So, and it also gives me an opportunity to enjoy a beautiful sunny day like we have today on a Friday. Of all days, my favorite day of the week. And in fact, I'm even planning on taking you guys with me to a couple of new places. I usually have way more time on my hands during the week. I'm a busy professional like many of you guys are. Happen to be working remotely today. So I know I have a meeting in about maybe an hour or so. So that's why I had to stay close to my apartment complex and film this video. But otherwise, if I had no meetings for the rest of this day, I would have just taken you guys to that trail. There's a nice trail not too far away from here. And there are actually a couple of different regional parks, maybe about 25 to half an hour away, that I'd love to take you guys with, and that I've actually filmed videos before in those regional parks. Back when I was uploading videos to the Acestar lifestyle channel, did plenty of walk and talks in those regional parks. So that is the plan for some upcoming videos that I have, maybe as early as this weekend, you know, fingers crossed that it doesn't rain. So I immediately became a person who was always, you know, kind of like a homebody, and daily walking actually allowed me to shed some of those homebody habits and become more of a person who appreciates nature and who is starting to spend more and more time in nature, and of course get some much needed sunlight, right? Get some much needed vitamin D, especially vitamin D3. The vitamin D that you actually get from sunlight is actually the active form of vitamin D. Very important for many processes, not just for maintaining your bone strength, not just for promoting proper calcium absorption, but also for promoting insulin sensitivity. That's something that people don't realize. By spending maybe even just half an hour in the sun every single day, you're actually decreasing your risk for type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is incidentally insulin resistant diabetes. It's not caused by the fact that you have too little insulin. That's essentially what happens in type 1 diabetes. That's an autoimmune attack on the cells of your pancreas. As a result, your body can't produce as much insulin anymore, so that's basically insulin insufficiency. But in type 2 diabetes, you get insulin resistance. So you have all this insulin in your blood, but the glucose molecules are not responding to the insulin. They're basically ignoring insulin, and they're staying outside in the bloodstream. So with vitamin D3, it opens more pathways for insulin to reach those glucose molecules in your blood and ultimately get them shuttled back into the cells. So yet another reason for you guys to spend just even a little bit of your days outside in the sun, and daily walking affords you that. The last benefit that I've personally experienced from daily walking, which is not at all related to fat loss, is that daily walking has allowed me to reconnect with hobbies that I had previously neglected or ignored or had previously thought of them as useless. Hobbies that have zero to do with the pursuit of money and the pursuit of instant dopamine hits, right? The hobbies that I've been able to now reconnect with as a result of daily walking include creating this YouTube channel here, the Acestar Fit channel. And this is probably one of the reasons why I was previously unsuccessful with YouTube. This is my 6th YouTube channel. I've been trying to run a successful YouTube channel since 2018. And the reason for why I've given up so many times before in the past is because I became fixated in views, in subscribers, in stats, and unfortunately in the pursuit of turning my YouTube channel into a business. When you start a new hobby and your overall aim becomes to grind away in order for you to replace that or turn that into your full-time job, anything that turns into a job is now instantly unenjoyable, right? I can't think of too many people who actually enjoy their day job. So imagine turning your hobby into your day job. Suddenly you'll burn out faster than if you did from your day job, right? So that's exactly what happened with me. I burned out 5 times already on YouTube because I unfortunately turned each of those channels into my day job, right? I was so fixated in turning them into lucrative businesses that I just burned myself out and I got tired and I walked away. So this time around, I have a completely different approach, and I'm actually using YouTube to document my daily walking journey. And if you guys are watching these videos, listening to everything that I discuss, especially in terms of this particular video about the unexpected benefits of walking, and you're doing this while you're walking, then this channel is already serving its purpose, right? Without earning a single dollar. If it's inspiring more and more people to walk in their free time, or even in any time that they happen to get during their day, weekday, workday, weekends, whatever, then I've already been successful with the Acestar Fit channel. And frankly, I would love nothing more than to create a new generation of high volume daily walkers, one daily upload at a time. So these are all the benefits that I've experienced personally from daily walking, and I can probably count countless other benefits, but we'll just keep this video where it is today. And wherever you guys are listening to this video, maybe even watching parts of this video, let me know what you guys plan to do in terms of your daily walking goals for August, right? We're just about a few hours away, half a day away from August 1st. So let me know if you guys, any of you guys, are adjusting your daily walking goal for August. Keep me posted on your own walking journeys. And until next time, just walk, baby.